Greetings from the evening, everyone. That's when I'm starting to write this script. Anyway, it's been a while. Holidays, and school and all that. Honestly, it feels kind of weird to be back, but here we are, and we're going at it. Before we start, though, I should say that this video will contain some spoilers to The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. I guess. Oh, also, everything we talk about here will be as it is in the Repentance Plus DLC. But with those out of the way, let's begin. Void is a 4-charge active item, which, upon use, absorbs item pedestals in the room. Depending on what items you absorb, this will have two main effects. The first happens when you absorb passive items. For each passive item you absorb, you gain 2 permanent stat buffs, randomly chosen from these 6. A flat +1 to damage, a 0.5 up to fire rate, a 0.2 up to speed, a 0.2 up to shot speed, a +1 to luck, and a +2.5 to range. The second happens when you absorb active items. When you absorb an active item, it will be absorbed. On every subsequent use of Void, you will also use every active item you have absorbed with it. Single-use active items will only be used the next time you use Void, so whatever. These are the hard facts of the item, or the important ones, at least. And I think Void is pretty good. This seems to be a bit of an uncommon opinion, though, because I have heard a lot of negative thoughts on it over the last few years. But I think this is really undeserved. It might not be a perfect item, but it is really strong, and I'm gonna try to show you that today. Oh, and that it's cool. So let's get into why Void is Isaac's most underrated item. One of the most common complaints people have about Void is that its stat-ups just aren't worth absorbing entire items. I mean, having more item effects just outperforms having these little stat-ups, right? Kind of. There are a lot of times where you want to just take an item instead of absorb, but I have an issue with this take because here's the thing, that doesn't really make Void weaker. Like with other rerolling items, if you will, you generally only want to use Void on the bad passives, quality 0 or 1 type of stuff, or otherwise want like items that just won't help you that much. And in these cases, getting those stat ups rather than the items can be well worth it. Say the flat +1 to damage. It's not that strong, but it's pretty solid, and especially early game, getting, just that little boost in damage can be a lot more helpful than some random item. Like the virus, or one of the several mom range up items. Just saying, Void is a really nice use on boss items, but the same thing goes for the +1 to luck. Its effects might be subtler given, but it's still pretty good, and if you can stack multiple uses of it into getting several luck ups, your run's going to be a lot stronger if you can pair that with like pretty much any decent or even like really good like proc item, stuff like parasitoid, sinus infection, and ghost pepper are, just a couple examples where Void luck ups will end up really boosting your run, and it's just good. And of course, the big one, the 0.5 fire rate up. Oh my god, I'm tearing up right now. No, I'm kidding. But do I even need to tell you that this is good? Like, it might not be huge, again, but it's a fire rate up, meaning you can break the tier cap with it. And by a pretty good amount too. Just saying, if you get it like twice. So these stats can actually be pretty strong. But I know what A lot of you are probably thinking something along the lines of, sure, setups can be strong sometimes, but they're inconsistent and you just can't rely on them. And that is a totally fair statement. Sometimes with Void, you will just get unlucky and get range and shot speed, or you'll get speed when you're already at max and effectively only get one stat up. It happens, and it does really suck. But, again, I do have some issues with this statement. While you can just get screwed over sometimes, it's not that common to happen. The chance of you only getting useless stats on a given use is pretty low, and even if it does happen, who cares? Like, genuinely, whatever. If you're using Void on a bad item, then you have a chance at something good and a chance at something bad. It's like most rerolls, you know? It might be a gamble, but you're gambling something that you already didn't want. If you get something bad, then that sucks, again, but that can also happen on items like the D6, which most people agree is a very good item. And I do too. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to diss D6 here, I love D6. But, along with that, getting screwed over once isn't huge. It's just kind of inconsequential. If you have Void for a decent amount of your run, you're probably going to use it a couple times. Between those couple times, you have a good chance at getting some solid stat ups, like what we covered before. The chance that you only get screwed over is really low. So, though I admit it can be inconsistent, a lot of people act like it's useless like 80% of the time, which just isn't true. And when it is useful, it can be really nice. You know, you trade in some item you don't want, varicose veins or something, pretty mediocre item, and you can get a nice stat up sometimes. Maybe not always, but really, it can be solid. Now for the feature of a lifetime, which people don't really actually seem to have that much issue with. Absorbing active items. Yay! Like I said before, you absorb an active item, it goes into Void. Now every time you use Void, you use that too. Got it? Great. Actually, before we get into that, single-use active items we're not talking about, because it doesn't really make that much of a difference. There are some neat things you can do with them, like with Alabaster Box, you can charge it without using Soul Hearts. Well, not really charge it, you can use it without charging it with Soul Hearts, which is cool, but other than that, it's just kind of insignificant and not worth talking about. So, moving on. Let's imagine you absorb Book of Revelations. Normally, in its main use, you get a soul heart every 6 charges if you use it as much as you can. That's pretty solid. I think we can all agree that health generation is nice, and it works. But with Void, you can get it every 4 charges. Soul hearts galore. It's amazing. Seriously though, it's a pretty good power increase. You can just get a bunch more soul hearts, and that's great. Especially since you also get the utility of having Void, to void more items. And this is the kind of thing that Void lovers, such as myself, love to bring up all the time, like anytime Void is brought up, because it's not that rare to get something like this, so, you'll have a lot of opportunities to get this, and it's pretty good. And Void actually has a lot of potential with absorbing active items, and that's partly because of the Repentance Plus buff. In case you didn't hear, in Repentance Plus, Void was buffed from having 6 charges to use to only 4. Which normally might not seem like a huge deal other than, oh hey, yeah, you can absorb a few more active items. But what it actually means is that whenever you absorb a 6 charge active item, its charge, like with Book of Revelations, is reduced to 4, which can be crazy sometimes. Like, seriously. The way this buff works makes Void way better than it was before, in certain circumstances at least, along with being able to use it more. So yeah, I'm kind of going off script in saying this, so it might be a little bit more sporadic, but that's a big part of why Void is a lot more powerful now, and part of why I want to make this video, because, you know, I like Void, and I think people will start to see its potential more. But that, the buff, absorbing things like Book of Revelations and making them more powerful, isn't the best part. It's not. Let's call the best part active stacking, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's exactly what you're thinking. Use multiple active items at once by absorbing multiple into Void. And I'm sure you know about this, it's not rare knowledge, but I do think it's still kind of slept on. I mean, active stacking can be super powerful with even just a couple of active items. Let's take a moderate example, you know. Let's not make it too picky, too cherry-picked, hopefully, but something that you could find in any old run, right? Let's say you're playing Apollyon just because, you know, whatever reason, you know, unlocks or whatever, and luckily you find a library pretty early on. After scavenging for a key, you look inside and you see 2 books: Telepathy for Dummies, my beloved, and the Book of Belial. Pretty decent find. Absorbing them both gives you a 4 charge active item, which can be used on hard rooms or bosses for a damage and range up with homing. Now, that's already strong on its own, but you're also decently likely to run into another active item later on too. Between the various item pools, and especially places like libraries or shops, you have a solid chance at stacking some active items. Plus, finding these combos and how the items interact is just fun, you know? And the implied powerful, like, again, Telepathy for Dummies, Book of Belial, you know, good combo, especially early game, but it even works in the late game because of homing and stuff. And that's, again, just a moderate example. If you can get some stronger items, because, you know, as much as I love Telepathy for Dummies, and I might make a video on that, we'll see, there are definitely stronger active items, and if you can find them, you're gonna be so powerful. You know, you just put them together, you can get some battle items and just destroy bosses, or you can have things like, you know, Book of Revelations, health generation, and you can just basically be unkillable, and anything in between. And, you know, finding combos like that is not only fun, like I said, but also can be really powerful, even with just like 2 or 3, which is not that rare to find in a run. So that's why Void is Isaac's most underrated item. To the credit, no. While Void stat-ups can be kind of inconsistent, they're still a good way to, you know, deal with low-quality items and build your basic power in a run. It won't always be a huge hit, sure, but it will be pretty solid a lot of the time, you know? Even, like, in a good run, you want to have these, like, basic stat-ups, you know? It really helps building a foundation, right? It's a good way for building blocks, stuff like that. And especially if you run into a low-quality item, you know, no reason not to just get a nice little stat up. And that can help with things like tier effects too, with things like luck, or sometimes damage and fire rate. And even though it's not always the greatest, it's still a good way to keep you at a level where you can survive if you have bad luck. Or just, you just get a little bit stronger, and nothing wrong with that. And also, when it is a huge hit, just saying, it's kind of comparable to quality 2 and 3 items. Just saying, a luck up and a fire rate up, plus 1 luck, plus 0.5 fire rate, is a combo that could probably get a quality 3 label if it were an item. Just saying, I'm just saying. But along with the stat ups and stuff, the active absorption is just a good option if you happen to see a 6 charge or a 12 charge item, which is just the dream of a Void user. Because, you get those little boosts to them. Or even if you find a low charge item, just throwing it in there can still be good. And you can stack those, even small charge items to do a lot at the same time, which can be a lot stronger than just having any one of them combined. And that can range from pretty decent to literally game-breakingly powerful. And, a lot of people rag on Void because of the aforementioned inconsistencies, and I'll admit, that's pretty true, that's a totally valid statement. But even though those stat ups can be lackluster at times, they're pretty good a lot of the time. And honestly, even if you're having really bad luck, I think Void makes up for some of that inconsistency with the utility of absorbing active items. Because even though the stats admittedly aren't as powerful as something like getting a really good item, you also get these other utilities, like active items that you can put into it. It has multiple uses that are all pretty good. So it's just an all-around, it's like a well-rounded item, right? So especially after the recent buff, I hope you see why I think Void deserves its place, not only in quality 4, but also in our hearts. Hey, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. I love making this stuff, and people being able to enjoy it is just amazing. Like I said in the intro, it does feel a little bit weird to be back, but the idea of seeing, or just the idea of people watching through and just enjoying themselves watching this is, it's just really nice. But the roguelike turn that this channel is seemingly taking is a bit sudden, and I'm sorry. I'm kidding, I'm not sorry. It's just how it's going, But I hope that over time you figure this out. Actually, on that note, I do want to say I'm always open to suggestions. It can be on Binding of Isaac for video ideas, right? It can be on Binding of Isaac. It can be other roguelike games. It can be other genres of games. I just need ideas. No, I'm kidding. I have ideas, but I would love to hear you guys out if you have ideas. So please don't be afraid to just drop something down. There's like a 90% chance I'll see it, unless if this video somehow blows up to the moon, which I doubt will happen, unfortunately. But, oh, actually, I almost forgot to mention, I'm thinking of getting Balatro. So we'll see, I guess. If I get obsessed with that, I'm gonna make some videos on it. That's just how it's gonna be, right? I like thinking and analyzing, so but I do want to mention something just about the channel's future in general, is that I'm thinking of taking a little bit of a step back from the constant video creation, because I'm trying, I'm in school and that's a lot, but I'm also trying to look into some other interests of mine, like making music, which I actually have a music channel which will be linked below that I plan to begin uploading to once I can figure out the legal stuff with copyright, because, you know, I want to protect my my work, which I spend hours to make. You know, it means a lot to me, so I want to keep it safe, like my child. Not that I'm going to stop making videos. That would be crazy to do. That's not, I'm gonna keep making videos. I love doing this. I mean, like I said, I love the idea of people enjoying this, and whenever it comes to like the creation process too, just being able to nerd out about video games is amazing. So don't worry about this channel stopping. It might slow down a bit, but we will survive. It will continue. There is no reason to fear. So yeah, not that that's like definite yet. I'm gonna take some time to think about it, and I'll probably make a post or something, but whatever. But anyway, that's all for this video. So I really hope you enjoyed. Really. Thank you for watching. And if you did enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing, you know, funny numbers and whatnot. But see you next time, where we'll be talking about something. Probably. Bye!